In just the first half of 2026, around 7,300 Indian tech professionals returned home. For the first time in decades, more people are expected to come back than leave. This is not a crisis. It is a sign that things are changing. India has changed while they were away, and the country they are returning to is very different from the one they left. The full-year figure for 2025 was 15,100, up from 9,800 in 2024. To understand why thousands of Indians are coming back, we first need to look at the system many of them have spent years navigating. The H-1B visa was created to allow skilled foreign workers to help build the American economy. But for hundreds of thousands of Indians working in the United States, it has gradually become one of the most uncertain and stressful immigration systems in the world. The numbers help explain why. Since the beginning of 2026, around 119,000 tech workers have lost their jobs across 219 American companies. A large number of those are Indian. For many Indians on an H-1B visa, losing a job can become an immigration crisis. An American citizen who loses a job can usually take time to look for the right opportunity, prepare for interviews, and negotiate a better offer. An Indian professional on an H-1B visa does not have that luxury. They usually have just 60 days to find another employer, transfer their visa, and complete all the required paperwork. If they cannot, they may have to leave the United States. In many cases, that also means their spouse and children may have to leave as well. The pressure is no longer just about finding another job. It is about whether an entire family can continue living in the country they have called home. Then comes the green card system. For many Indians, this is where the situation becomes even more difficult. Because of country-by-country limits, Indian professionals applying for employment-based green cards face one of the longest immigration backlogs in the world. Depending on the category and the estimates used, the wait can range from around 50 years to well over 190 years. Think about what that means. An Indian engineer who moved to America in 2000, worked for decades, paid taxes every year, built a career, and raised children in the United States could retire before receiving permanent residency. The political climate has made things even harder. The Trump administration introduced higher visa fees, stricter requests for evidence, RFEs, and tougher checks during the visa process and at ports of entry. People may disagree on whether those policies were right or wrong, but for many Indian professionals, they created one clear message. Your future here is never guaranteed. Every visa renewal brings uncertainty. Every new debate about restricting or changing the H-1B program creates more anxiety. After spending 10 or even 20 years building a life in America, living with that uncertainty year after year takes a toll. When you put all of this together, mass layoffs, a 60-day deadline, decades-long green card waits, and an increasingly uncertain immigration system, it becomes easier to understand why many Indian professionals have started asking a question they avoided for years. Is staying in America still worth it, or is it finally time to go home? The reasons Indian professionals return home are not only about salaries, careers, or better opportunities. Some reasons cannot be measured in money. They are emotional, personal, and become stronger with every passing year. One of the biggest is family. Almost every Indian living abroad thinks about this, even if they rarely talk about it. A flight from San Francisco to Bengaluru can take nearly 20 hours, not including layovers. If there is a medical emergency, reaching home can take 2 days. If a parent becomes seriously ill, coming back may mean taking leave from work, dealing with visa rules, changing travel plans, and handling endless paperwork, all while trying to be there for your family. Then there are the children. Someone who left India at 26 may still feel completely Indian, but children who were born and raised in America often grow up very differently. Their schools are American, their friends are American. The culture they understand best is American. As the years pass, the emotional distance can grow even bigger. Someone who moved abroad in their 20s and is now in their 40s has spent most of their adult life outside India. Every visit home feels familiar, but also strangely unfamiliar. Everyday life, the conversations, the small social habits, and the rhythm of the country slowly start to feel different. Many people describe this feeling with a simple phrase, living in translation. Not just translating languages, but translating your entire life, explaining jokes that nobody understands, explaining cultural references, celebrating festivals that never feel quite the same, feeling completely successful at work, but never feeling like the fullest version of yourself. This is nobody's fault, not America's, not India's. It is simply the price of building a life between two countries, where one place is your home and the other is where your life happened. For a growing number of Indian professionals, this emotional cost has become more important than money. And in the end, it is often the reason they decide it is finally time to come home. For many years, returning to India often meant giving up career growth. That is no longer true. One of the biggest reasons Indian professionals are coming back is that the opportunities at home have changed dramatically. India today offers senior leadership roles, high-impact engineering jobs, and the chance to build products used by millions of people around the world. One of the biggest reasons for this change is the rise of global capability centers, GCCs. Today, more than 1,600 GCCs operate in India, employing over 1.5 million professionals. These are not just support offices. They are where some of the world's biggest companies build products, develop software, design AI systems, analyze data, and solve complex engineering problems. Companies choose India because the country has one of the world's largest pools of skilled technology talent, strong engineering capabilities, and the ability to build world-class teams at scale. The impact is visible across the industry. Amazon's teams in India build features used by customers around the world. Walmart's technology teams develop systems that power the world's largest retailer. Google's engineering centers in Bengaluru and Hyderabad help build products used by billions of people. Major global banks, including JP Chase, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley, have built large technology teams in India, where engineers work on problems that are just as important as those handled by teams anywhere else in the world. This is one reason many Indian professionals no longer feel they have to choose between a global career and living in India. A survey by the anonymous professional network Blind found that 57% of Amazon employees and 58% of Walmart employees had seen Indian colleagues move back from the United States. Many of them simply transferred to their company's India offices instead of leaving the organization. India's startup ecosystem has also changed beyond recognition. The country now has more than 120 unicorns. Companies like Servam AI, Kritrim, Aadhaar Energy, PhonePe, Zepto, and many others are building ambitious products from India for both Indian and global markets. For professionals returning after spending years at companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, or Meta, this creates exciting new opportunities. They bring experience in building products at a global scale, managing large engineering teams, and solving complex technical problems. That experience is highly valued by Indian startups looking to build world-class companies. Artificial intelligence is creating another wave of opportunity. Between 2016 and 2024, India's concentration of AI talent more than doubled and is now around twice the global average, according to research on global capability centers. India also has more than 18,000 core AI experts working in GCCs alone, focusing on areas such as deep learning, ML ops, and large language models. For experienced AI engineers, this means something that was difficult to imagine just a few years ago. Many of the most challenging and meaningful AI roles can now be found in India itself. For someone who spent a decade building machine learning systems in Silicon Valley, coming back no longer means stepping away from cutting-edge technology. It means bringing that experience home and using it to help build the next generation of products from India. The India that returnees are arriving in is materially different from the India that most of them left. This is the fact that is most consistently surprising to people making the return trip. Not the things that are still difficult, which they had expected, but the things that have quietly, significantly improved while they were gone. The digital infrastructure transformation is the most immediate. UPI, India's unified payment system, processes over 10 billion transactions per month and works everywhere. The person returning to India does not need to carry cash, does not need to negotiate with a bank for days to get a simple transfer done, does not need to worry about whether the neighborhood Kirana store accepts cards, A QR code and a phone number move money anywhere in the country, instantly free. This is an infrastructure that the United States does not have at the same scale of accessibility. The food delivery and quick commerce infrastructure has transformed daily life in Indian cities. Blinkit, Zepto, and Swiggy Instamart deliver groceries in 10 minutes in most major metro areas. Swiggy and Zomato deliver restaurant food from hundreds of options within 30 to 40 minutes at prices that are, by Western standards, extraordinarily low. The returnee who worried about whether they would be able to eat well in India, who had spent 15 years in a city with excellent restaurants, meal kit services, and the full abundance of American food retail, discovers that India in 2026 offers a food and convenience infrastructure that rivals any city in the world. Healthcare has improved dramatically in India's major cities. The Tier 1 private hospitals in Bengaluru, Mumbai, Delhi, and Chennai, Apollo, Manipal, Fortis, Kokilaban, offer quality of care that is genuinely world-class, at prices that are a fraction of what American healthcare costs, even with insurance. An MRI that costs $3,000 in an American hospital costs 3 to 5,000 rupees in an Indian one. A consultation with a senior specialist that requires weeks of waiting and insurance pre-authorization in America happens within days and costs hundreds of rupees in India. For the returnee who had been managing American healthcare costs and delays, this is a significant quality of life improvement rather than a downgrade. The infrastructure of daily life has changed. India's metro rail network has expanded dramatically. Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Pune all have operational metro systems that have reduced dependence on road traffic in the cities most returnees target. The quality of residential construction in premium and mid-premium segments has improved substantially. International retail brands, quality gyms, sports facilities, and entertainment options that were scarce a decade ago are now available across the major metros. The returnee who had worried about the quality of daily life infrastructure discovers that the gap between what they had in America and what is available in India has narrowed substantially. Not to zero, but enough to no longer be the decisive factor. India has the cheapest mobile data in the world, 1.5 gigabytes per day for a few hundred rupees per month. The person who worked remotely in San Jose or London can work remotely in Bengaluru or Pune on the same tools, with the same connectivity for a fraction of the cost. The infrastructure for remote work that became normalized globally during COVID has made it possible for some returnees to maintain global roles, even for Western companies, while living in India. The combination of Indian living costs, Indian family access, and Western salaries represents a quality of life that is, for the right person in the right situation, genuinely extraordinary. A family that in America struggled with the cost and logistics of childcare, a cost that in American cities regularly exceeds $10,000 per month for full-time care, returns to India and discovers that reliable household support is widely available and affordable for many middle-class professional families. Combined with the support of extended family, this gives returning parents a quality of daily life that is difficult to replicate elsewhere. In terms of time, help, and freedom from the relentless logistical pressure of Western parenting. The children angle runs in two directions simultaneously. For the returnee with young children, coming home means that the children will grow up knowing their grandparents, understanding their culture, speaking their parents' language, and having the kind of multi-generational family connection that is India's most underrated gift to its people. For the returnee with teenage children who have grown up in America, coming home raises a different set of questions about adjustment, about friendships, about educational systems, about belonging. The decision about when to return for families with children is partly the decision about at which point in a child's development the disruption of a move is most manageable and the benefits of being in India are most valuable. The opportunity argument for returning to India is not primarily about salary. It is about the specific kind of impact that is available in a country of 1.4 billion people that is the world's fastest growing major economy, the world's largest democracy, and a country where genuinely basic infrastructure, healthcare delivery, financial access, agricultural efficiency, educational quality, still has enormous room for improvement. The return professional who joins an early-stage Indian startup as a founding team member, a senior engineer, or an early executive brings with them something that cannot be hired in the Indian market directly: direct experience of how companies are built, at scale, in environments where standards are ruthlessly maintained, where product thinking is central, and where global markets are taken for granted as the default scope of ambition. This experience is extraordinarily valuable in an ecosystem that is building at speed and looking for people who know what good looks like because they have built it. India has produced over 120 unicorn companies. The startups being founded in India now, in AI, in healthcare, in agritech, in clean energy, in financial services, in space technology, are building products for markets of hundreds of millions of people. The scale at which a good idea can be deployed in India through the digital infrastructure that UPI, Aadhaar, and the Jan Dhan Yojana have created is genuinely without parallel. An app that solves a real problem for Indian consumers has access from day one to the largest unified consumer market on earth for digital products. The return professional who spent a decade at a large American company solving complex problems at scale arrives in this environment with exactly the skills the ecosystem needs. The government has recognized this and has been building systematic incentives to attract talent home. The Prime Minister Research Chair Scheme, launched in June 2026, invites accomplished Indian-origin researchers, scientists, and technologists working abroad to take up research roles at India's top institutions, IITs, IISc, and national laboratories, with competitive salaries, research grants, and relocation support. The Brain Gain Bharat initiative, being developed across multiple ministries, proposes fellowships, funding, and institutional placement for returnees across science, technology, and entrepreneurship. Tamil Nadu has committed 100 crore rupee budget for new research centers with IISc and TIFR, collaboration specifically targeting returnee scientists and AI researchers. These are not token gestures. They are systematic attempts to create the conditions under which the talent that India trained and then lost can find genuine professional homes on return. The DRDO NRI induction program offers returning Indian scientists and engineers positions in India's defense research establishment, channeling the expertise of returnees directly into the country's most strategically important research institutions. The Ramanujan Fellowship and Ramalinga Swamy fellowship schemes have been providing competitive fellowships for returning scientists in engineering and biomedical research, respectively, for years. What has changed recently is the scale of ambition. The government is no longer thinking about attracting a few dozen exceptional scientists, but about creating the conditions for tens of thousands of skilled professionals to find India's employment market genuinely competitive with what they left behind. The reverse culture shock is real. The Indian professional who has spent 15 years in America has absorbed, deeply and genuinely, the norms of a different culture. Returning to India means relearning the codes of a culture that the returnee knows from childhood, but has not lived as an adult. What the evidence suggests is that the returnees who navigate this transition most successfully are those who return with realistic expectations about the salary, the job market, and the adjustment period, and with clear, specific reasons for returning that go beyond the push of America's immigration problems. The person who returns because India has genuinely become where they want to be, and who has thought concretely about the work they will do and the life they will build, tends to stay. The person who returns because the visa situation became intolerable and has not built a positive vision of what comes next tends to struggle. India's reverse migration is not simply a story about individuals deciding where to live. It is a story about the repatriation of talent, capital, and global exposure that India invested in producing and then lost to the brain drain for 3 decades. Every Indian professional who returns brings with them something that India's domestic ecosystem cannot easily generate internally. Direct, first-person experience of how the world's most sophisticated technology companies, financial institutions, and research organizations actually function at the highest level. This experience is transformative when it re-enters the Indian system. The returned engineer who spent 12 years at Google understands from direct practice what it means to build infrastructure that serves 1 billion users without failure. The returned finance professional who spent a decade at Goldman Sachs understands from direct practice how global capital markets evaluate risk. The returned scientist who spent 8 years at MIT understands from direct practice what frontier research looks like and how it is conducted. None of this knowledge can be acquired from textbooks or from reading about it. It can only be acquired from doing it, and the returnees are bringing it home. The government's Brain Gain Bharat framework explicitly recognizes this. The Bharat Talent Alliance, envisioned as a national coordination body for diaspora engagement, is designed to match return talent with the institutions and organizations that need it most, to ensure that the person with the right expertise finds the right placement rather than landing in the general job market and potentially leaving again, because the fit was not there. The AI startup landing pads being established in Bengaluru, Chennai, and Pune for repatriated founders are designed to provide the specific support, institutional connections, funding access, regulatory navigation, that a returned entrepreneur needs to get started quickly in a market they may not have worked in for a decade. The capital dimension is equally significant. Indian American households are among the wealthiest ethnic groups in the United States by median income and median net worth. The savings accumulated over 15 or 20 years of professional employment in the American technology industry represent substantial capital. Capital that, when returned to India through investment in property, in startups, in fixed deposits, and in the ordinary spending of a family living well in an Indian city, contributes to the Indian economy in ways that extend far beyond the individual's career. India is not a finished project. It is a project underway at scale with urgency. The talent that returns is arriving at a moment when it is most needed, when the infrastructure is good enough to be productive, but the expertise to use it at its highest potential is in short supply. The semiconductor fab in Dholera will need people who understand how semiconductor manufacturing organizations function at the highest level. The AI companies in Bengaluru will need people who have built AI systems at the scale of the world's best. The hospitals in Chennai will need doctors who have practiced in the most demanding clinical environments in the world. The schools across India will need educators who have experienced the most innovative pedagogical approaches anywhere. Every category of returned talent plugs a gap that India cannot fully fill from domestic training alone. India is calling, not with the voice of a country that wants its people back because it is ready for them. The India that is calling in 2026 has UPI and Blinkit in Metro Rail, and world-class private hospitals and a startup ecosystem producing unicorns and a space industry that just put a private rocket in orbit. The return is not a return to perfection. It is a return to belonging, and to a country that is building, with genuine momentum, toward the future its people have always believed it was capable of. 7,300 Indian professionals came home in the first half of 2026. The numbers are rising. The X in the X+1 syndrome is finally arriving, not for every Indian professional abroad and not all at once, but enough that the direction of the flow has changed, and the people making the decision to return are no longer doing so as a last resort. They are doing so as a choice, a deliberate, considered, eyes-open choice to be part of what India is building. The India that sent its best people out to the world for 3 decades is calling them back to a country that is ready to build. If this gave you something to think about, like subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.